I am currently 37 weeks pregnant in my second pregnancy. My first pregnancy was with twins, and this pregnancy is a singleton. So I always thought it would be fun to do a video like this where I talk about the differences between my twin pregnancy and my singleton pregnancy, because I remember trying to find these videos before I got pregnant for the second time and was just so curious from my experience being with twins first, like how might it be different if I get pregnant again with a singleton? So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I have a list of things here that I want to go through and talk about, like the main differences. These are just the main things that come to mind when someone has asked me what I feel like the biggest differences are. There probably are so many more things I could talk about, but these are the main things that have been different. The first thing that was very different, and that was really at the very beginning, is how soon I got a positive pregnancy test. So for me, whenever I got pregnant with twins, I didn't know it was twins at the time. I didn't know I was having twins until I was 18 weeks pregnant. But my positive pregnancy test came up at 8 days post-ovulation, which if you know anything about pregnancy tests, that is very early. That's like probably literally the first day you could possibly get a positive, but a lot of times you still won't get a positive even if you are pregnant. This time around with the singleton, I didn't get a positive pregnancy test until 14 days post-ovulation. So basically, once I conceived, like I didn't know I was pregnant until 2 weeks later. It wasn't showing positive on pregnancy tests, and we were trying. So I took a few like between that time period, and I had pretty much convinced myself I wasn't pregnant, even though I get very, like both times I got distinct symptoms of being pregnant, especially like the few days before the positive test. And so I was pretty sure I was pregnant based on that. Like I felt very similar to when I got pregnant with my twins before I found out, but I was like, maybe I'm not pregnant because it's not showing positive. So it took longer for me personally, and that's not the case with like just because you get an early positive test doesn't mean you're pregnant with twins whatsoever. But that was just my experience. I didn't get a positive until later, and that's usually because the HCG hormone is just lower when you have one baby versus when you have two. Like you have two babies making that hormone, and usually it'll show up a little bit sooner. So that was the first thing that was different. Second thing that was different pretty early on in my pregnancy is I had pretty major food aversions with my twin pregnancy. With my singleton pregnancy, I definitely haven't. There are still things that will kind of like turn me off or just like don't sound good, but not to the extent of when I was pregnant with twins. I would just get like really turned off by certain foods. I threw up a couple of times, got really close to throwing up a lot more often, and I haven't really experienced that a lot with my singleton pregnancy. With twins, I also had a lot more nausea with my pregnancy in general. So like nausea that was related to pregnancy. With my twins, I got nauseous like my whole first trimester. I was so nauseous. I remember getting even just nauseous off and on, like throughout pretty much my whole pregnancy. It was kind of a struggle. Versus this pregnancy, I was definitely nauseous in the first trimester, but nothing as bad when it was like pregnancy induced, like my twin pregnancy. And I say that because I have had other health struggles being pregnant with my singleton. I'm going through having mold toxicity, and then I finally got out of living in mold and my body's been healing. And so I've had a lot of other health symptoms, and nausea has been one of the things that has been triggered by the mold situation. So it's hard to tell sometimes like what's pregnancy and what's not, but from what I can usually tell, the nausea that was related like just to being pregnant and haven't eaten in a while or ate the wrong thing or something like that, like definitely has been a lot less than when I was pregnant with my twins. When I was pregnant with my twins, it was just, sometimes it just didn't matter what I ate or what I did. I was just nauseous a lot. So second pregnancy, definitely a lot less nauseous. Okay, and then with my twin pregnancy, another thing that was different is especially starting around 20 weeks pregnant, I remember my belly just feeling so stretched all the time. Like it felt like someone was just taking my skin and like stretching it constantly. And I think because especially starting at that point, my belly started to grow a lot faster and I started measuring like 10 weeks ahead. And so it totally makes sense, right? And also I was a first time mom, so maybe that had something to do with it. Like everything's never stretched before and now it's stretching like a lot faster than normal, right? And with my singleton pregnancy this time, I definitely have not really experienced that as much. I definitely got a lot more uncomfortable starting starting around like 32, 33 weeks pregnant. And it was more just like aches and pains and needing to like sit down more, lay in bed more. But I definitely haven't experienced that tight stretching feeling as much. And so that's been really nice. Like I would say even just physically overall, the Singleton pregnancy without a doubt has been easier. Like when I think about just how, I mean, I definitely am tired, don't get me wrong, especially because now we have 2 toddlers because the twins are now toddlers, but I feel like just overall physically it's been easier. And when it started getting harder in my Singleton pregnancy, like that was a lot later than when it got harder in my twin pregnancy. Okay, and then with my twin pregnancy, something that has been different so far that I can say has been different because I've made it this far in my Singleton pregnancy is that with my twins, I did go into preterm labor. So obviously that is a lot more common when you have twins. So preparing for that and just like knowing about, that could be a possibility for you is definitely going to be really helpful. Because for me, I definitely didn't expect to go into labor. It was definitely very unexpected. And so with my twins, I went into labor at 34 plus 5 weeks pregnant. And it was like a movie scene. Like my water broke at home. It was like almost midnight. We went to the hospital. I had them 4 hours later. Like it was a really fast labor. And then this pregnancy, I am 37 weeks and let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'm 37 weeks and 3 days pregnant. I think that's what it would be, 3 or 4 days pregnant. So 37 and a half weeks. And obviously I've not gone into labor yet. So I've hit that like full term window, right? Of being at least 37 weeks. With my twin pregnancy and with this pregnancy, both of them, I've worked with a midwife and have been planning a home birth. So obviously the first time around, we transferred into the hospital because it was way too early to try staying at home. And then this time around, I'm very excited though to have hit that like full term window and finally get to like stay at home. I have my bathtub set up with all these beautiful twinkle lights and just excited to experience that this time. So that's definitely been different. Obviously, once I give birth at home, I'm hoping we can upload, like if it works out, I'm going to try recording a lot of it and we can upload a video about that or just recap like the experience if that doesn't work out. But yeah, I'm super, super excited for that this time around because I've been wanting a home birth for so long, and so it's gonna be so amazing to get to experience that. Something else that's been different with my Singleton pregnancy, and this will depend on if you had your Singleton first or your twins first, but for me, I had my twins first, so obviously I have had 2 toddlers while being pregnant. I'm due early August, and the girls are almost 2.5, so that's kind of like the age gap, and I will say that 2.5 has been a really good age gap so far. Like just in the past couple of months, they have gotten so independent and like even playing together so much. Like they'll go off in their room and just play by themselves for a while. They'll play outside in our backyard for hours. They've definitely gotten so independent and just like less cuddly too, which is kind of sad. They won't just like sit and cuddle as much. But I will say that I think we definitely have a unique setup, me and my husband. So we're both at home full time. I run my business part time. I work about 20 hours per week. And then he helps with some things in the business, but usually his hours are more like 1 work day a week. And especially since I have just being pregnant and all of that, and also going through mold healing, I have not been able, because he does a lot of our video editing, so I haven't even been able to give him a lot of videos to edit. So he really hasn't been working like much in the past couple of months. So especially as I got in like my 3rd trimester, he's been pretty much like full on with like our toddlers and wrangling them, or like when we go out places, he gets them in and out of their car seats or like chases them down if they run off somewhere. So it definitely is hard having toddlers like while you're pregnant, but I do think it probably is easier having like twin toddlers, being pregnant with a Singleton versus being pregnant with twins and like having a Singleton toddler or like multiple other kids. I feel like that could be harder because like I mentioned earlier, twin pregnancy was definitely a lot harder on my body. Just like everything felt stretched faster. You're growing a lot faster. I was measuring 10 weeks ahead, starting like halfway through my pregnancy. So when I gave birth at 34 weeks, I was like measuring 44 weeks pregnant, like insane. And so I do feel like that could be harder. And also because, I do have a lot of support from my husband, I feel like that makes it a lot easier on me to rest when I need to. And so, yeah, so I do acknowledge like our situation is so unique. A lot of women don't have that kind of support like while they're going through being pregnant and like having other kids. But I mean, I definitely still get to be very involved with them, right? Like obviously, but he's just the one like from a physical standpoint, like wrangling them, because you know toddlers can be crazy sometimes. And then the one other thing I just wanted to mention, because I mentioned this earlier, that's been unique to the Singleton pregnancy. And again, this isn't necessarily like twins versus Singleton, but just the season of life that we've been walking through. We moved into a house that was extremely moldy, and now we're kind of figuring out like we probably had issues with mold in previous places that we lived for the past like several years. And so my body got to the point, could have also, you know, pregnancy just like heightened everything, but definitely has been a lot harder emotionally being pregnant with my Singleton versus twins. My twin pregnancy was harder physically, for sure, but my Singleton pregnancy has been harder like emotionally and mentally, because we've gone through like moving basically 3 different times in a 4-month time span. Moved into the moldy house, and then we moved out of that into an Airbnb, and then we bought a house, and then we moved into this house, which has been so healing. But in going through all of that, we've also had to like get rid of basically like, it's basically losing all your stuff in a fire, but like you have to force yourself to get rid of it, which is so hard. And so yeah, so I would say like emotionally it's been a lot harder with my Singleton pregnancy. I wouldn't say it's because it's a Singleton, but I am very grateful that, you know, physically my pregnancy has been easier than my twins, because emotionally has been really hard. But again, that's not because it's a Singleton necessarily. But I just wanted to point that out. Like when I think about my last pregnancy versus this one, like that's definitely been very different. And then there's so many other things I could go into. Just being like a second time mom, you realize all the things you don't actually need. So I've definitely bought way less stuff, which I want to do a video about eventually, about all the stuff that I actually have rebought for our 3rd baby that I feel like we actually used. So if you're interested in that, definitely let me know, and then that'll motivate me to want to actually record it. But I hope this was helpful. If you're, you know, pregnant with twins, or if you're pregnant with a Singleton after twins, drop a comment below. Let me know what your experience has been like too. I'm super curious to hear. It's always interesting to me, like what people say the differences are. One thing that I'm so curious about is how a Singleton is going to be like newborn wise, because all I've experienced before was having 2 babies at once. And so I am really looking forward to that, honestly, of having one baby that to take care of, which obviously we still have 2 toddlers. We have other kids, but just, you know, I feel like it's going to be very interesting. I'm hopeful it'll feel a lot easier than newborn life with twins, even though to me that feels like normal, but I know that it was really hard. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. And if you aren't already subscribed to our channel, be sure to subscribe. Like I mentioned, once I give birth, I'm hoping I can upload any video footage that I have from the birth, because I'm so excited about it. I am so excited for a home birth. It's been my dream for so long, so I'm so excited to get to share it with you guys and have you guys get a peek into that too if you're interested at all. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.